straight.
Yeah.
Okay, so technically, and by the rules that we play with in intramurals at the high school and college level, I cannot use my hands in the post. So now, it's different if I'm just trying to maintain position. So if he's going down, and I simply just have my arm here to maintain, that is legal. I can do that, okay? Now, if you try to back me down, and I'm using my hands to try to put them off, back, right away. So for you guys, the guidelines are a little bit easier, where, we're going to go this way so these guys can see. The guidelines are a little bit easier because I can't use my hands at all. So if he's kind of, it's different though. You got to also see who's initiating contact. So try to do like the Shaquille O'Neal, where he's trying to like back down real strong. And I'm just trying to like maintain, you know. I can firm my body up to try to not give up my position. You ain't ever going to do that to me. So, so if he's trying to come down and he's doing that kind of stuff, but I can't have my hands on him. You know, you'll see that. The other thing that people will do is their knee. So he's trying to back down. I got my knee. I can't do that. That's illegal. So you guys can use those as some guidelines as well. Again, does this happen every time? No. But it's just guidelines. So instead, when you have those plays and you think rhythm, speed, balance, quickness, it's just something that makes your decision-making easier. Go ahead.
Is it fair to say, like, on that, for the defense, it's just whenever you're trying to leverage your weight on them? Like, 'cause like last night, one of the guys was probably a better post guy. On offense, the defender wasn't like the biggest guy, but he was still strong. He was like, his body weight
Just
was
like laying on him?
Yeah, and like, but at the same time, so if the defender is just staying straight up and holding it, but you see this guy start hitting him, then that's an offensive
You
foul.
can go offensive foul, absolutely. I mean, the rules of basketball are set up to play the game as fairly as possible. The hardest part is when you have big guys versus little guys around the basket and in the post, and that's why it was so difficult for the NBA guys to referee Shaq, and why it's so hard to referee Dwight Howard, because they're so much stronger than everyone. So think about it. Shaq just doing this is so much more severe than Kobe Bryant. I mean, there's just such a big difference there. So you just kind of have to, that's where you guys get paid, to determine, do you think that back down and he clears out is enough contact to warrant an offensive foul. And every defender on the floor, every player on the floor is entitled to their spot. So just, if you would have called it a defensive foul, that kind of contact, then you should also probably call that an offensive foul. Does that help?
Yep. Can you talk about, and I don't know, you might be getting into this, but just along the lines of the big guys, like off the ball contact down low. Last week I ended up calling a double foul.
Okay.
Two guys that kind of got in a shoving match down below.
Okay.
I mean, nothing that was totally flagrant, just both trying to get position, you know, that sort of thing. Talk about that a little bit.
Again, all 10 players, they all have their own right to a position on the floor. So keep that in mind. So if, again, we'll try to demonstrate this as best as we possibly can. Basketball is also, I'm going to throw out more terminology for you. I hope I don't overwhelm you with terminology. Basketball is supposed to be a game where they allow freedom of movement. What does that mean? What does that mean?
Like you can't keep the guy from moving. I mean, he has to be able to move legs, arms, bring the ball from one place to another without you stopping his progress.
Absolutely. I am allowed to go from point A to point B without any type of contact to prevent me from doing that. Okay?
You're talking about with the ball or
Without the ball. Either one. I mean, really, like, the game should be played freely. Like, that's when the game of basketball. That's why we have offensive 3 seconds. That's why we call hand checks. That's why all these things come into factor, because ideally, the game of basketball, they want people to get to the rim freely. I mean, that's why the NBA game, they have defensive 3 seconds and all these different guidelines. That's why we call 2 hands on a dribbler, to less physicality and more movement, because that's what's exciting. I mean, that's simply what it comes down to. So RSBQ, like we talked about on dribblers on the perimeter, we can use the same factors on cutters. We're going to talk about cutters, but we're talking about big guys trying to get in position, right? So the one hard thing is you got to determine arms. So what, by rule, can Josh do as a defender to stay legal? What is he allowed to do? Can he have his hands out like this? Is that legal? It is?
I mean, he can have, are you, like, if you're posting up?
Let's just say he's just trying to establish a legal guarding position on me. What is that?
Do you have the ball?
I do not have the ball, but it actually, that kind of matters, but it doesn't matter for what we're talking about.
Pretty sure you can just do whatever you want. You can do jumping jacks as long as it doesn't get in your way.
He can do jumping jacks? Okay. What does he have to do? Stick your arms out again. Okay? If I go out and shoot and go like that, is that a foul?
Yeah.
Okay, so how is that legal?
So
I'm just asking you guys. We're trying to get the answer. Go ahead.
it's determined on other players too, is that what you're trying to say?
It is to a certain extent. But for him to be a legal defender, he cannot have he's got to stay within his framework. Okay? Shoulders down, toes all the way to the ceiling. That's his space.
So what about down low and
Right, you can guard that, but if, let me be a defender and you dribble past me, and you go past me, and you get my arm is out in front of you, that's illegal. Players do that for balance. That's the whole purpose of having your arms out to your side, so you can have balance. So that actually has nothing to do with guarding. So if I'm trying to run and he's got his arms out and he's trying to hold me up, and he affects my rhythm, speed, balance, quickness, we have a foul. Okay? The other thing is that post players will try to get big. So if I'm trying to post up, I'll have my arms out big. That's the strategy. That's how guys are taught to play defense. So I want you to do that. Okay? Now, what you have to be aware of is when I'm trying to get position and I'm trying to fight through this, and he's using his arm, but yet it looks like I'm creating all the contact, who's really causing all this stuff? The offensive player. I'm not saying that what he's doing is necessarily illegal and you should call this a foul right away, because he's just trying, he had his hands up for the ball, and I'm trying to fight through him, and he's trying to maintain position, right? What I cannot do is I can't come up underneath, okay, and pull him through like this. If I try to go around, you're looking for extension. So I go around and he extends. So try that in like real motion. And he extends me, that's an offensive foul. Okay? I cannot swim move him. Okay? And at the same time, if I try to get my hands down and he throws, does one of those or goes up, go up underneath me, that's an offensive foul as well. So is that kind of what you're talking about? This right here, where they start flailing their arms, is the hardest thing to call, because it looks like I'm doing all this and all of a sudden we got arms flailing and stuff. That's probably what you call a double foul. Pick the first one. I would try to, anytime you have a double foul, I would try to say pick the first foul. And if you clean that kind of stuff up early, that's going to be key. So I was at a camp this summer and we listened to a guy who taught post players. And they teach their post players to do things illegally until referees call fouls. Okay? So they teach their post players to get big. They teach their defenders to get their legs up underneath here and grab shorts. Okay? Or grab arms. Alright? So they try to trick us until we try to call fouls, or they'll lay on them. That's another thing. They'll just try to lay as long as they possibly can until you're going to call it a foul. So if he's trying to be big and I'm just laying on him, okay? Eventually, we got to call something, okay? And all of a sudden, I pull the chair out and he falls to the ground. You know, you can see we have to leverage.
that's like the other day, the Boston Miami game when Rajon Rondo was guarding LeBron.
Yep.
And he's just all over him.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, eventually, you got to determine, is that a legal position or not? For Rondo, he was just trying to maintain, probably. But if he moves back out. If Rondo's just like this, okay, and he's just trying, because LeBron's a lot stronger. But if Rondo moves him from right there to there, that's illegal. That's when it becomes a foul. Okay? Other questions on post play? That's a good conversation. Go ahead.
On the situation where Josh has his hands out, you're behind him.
Mhm.
What about a defender just being sneaky and just putting hands underneath? Like both hands underneath, no contact, and the guy's like standing right over here trying to pass the ball in.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Okay, and then once he starts bumping him with the chest in the
Okay,
back.
so here's the key. Alright? Here's the absolute key to this. Do I go ball, body? Do I go body, ball? That's all you got to, that's the only thing you need to make a decision on. Okay? Same thing if I try to go over the top. Do I go ball, body? Or do I hit him and then get the ball? That's your absolute key to calling that play.